It's that time of the year when the season changes in the northern hemisphere and the leaves in various places start turning their colors, and we're getting ready for the winter, for the cold of the winter, and anticipating the next growing season, even while the fruits grow on the field. Today you don't realize that, and you don't think about those things because we live in an insulated society. We live in a place where finances are determined by people in offices who do nothing but manipulate numbers and manipulate certain things on the internet. But there is a whole world out there, a world that goes through changes. And these changes are seasonal, and we believe that the seasons come from God. And one would say, well, that's silly. The people in the southern hemisphere don't have the same changes. Their changes are the opposite, the mirror image of our changes. And of course, much can be said about that. But the point of all of the various changes is that they follow certain patterns. They either follow a pattern of 6 different times in the year, or a pattern of 4 different times. And these 4 and 6 have Kabbalistic connotations, as you might expect. But the most important element of the changes are that when you see change, you must look within yourself and say, it's time for me to change. The fact that there are changes in the world allow for us to make changes in our own selves. The fact that things are changing continuously allow for the person to make the proper changes so that he or she changes in the way they do things. But it's not just that at any moment we can change, because we can change at any moment. The reason why this period of time allows for greater change is because the opportunity and the impetus exists more so now than at any other time during the year. When you have the season changing and the harvesting making the accounting of the year, and the new fruits and the new crops representing a new year, a new development, all of these things indicate that the human being has to look at the past and see what exactly has happened in the past, make an accounting of it, and resolve to make things better. Even no matter how good things are, things can always be made better, number one. And if things weren't the way they were supposed to be, then we certainly want to make them better for the next year. And we have the power now because that's how God has put into nature. And the theme of the season is tshuva. Tshuva means return. Return does not mean become re-religious. That's something that turns many of us off, because it implies an imposing God overseeing every little thing that we do, and imposing God's will upon us even where we don't want to. And we see God as meddling in our affairs and making our lives miserable when we wish to enjoy them. That kind of God is the God that people reject when they stray off and do what they want to do. Because the person does not want to have an imposing ogre looking over their shoulder, being afraid of that ogre all the time. And the truth is that God does not wish to be an imposing ogre looking over your shoulder. And therefore, part of the tshuva, and the first and important part of the tshuva, is to realize that God is your best friend. We have to do tshuva. We must return to God because we're missing out on talking to our best friend. This, of course, is a paraphrase of the great Rebbe, Reb Nachman of Breslov. I'm not a Breslover, but the power of that statement is universal. God is our best friend, and we should talk to our best friend. And that's the essence of tshuva, of returning. We have the power to return. Tshuva doesn't mean to change. It means to return to the state that we're supposed to be in. We had the wrong perception. We had the wrong idea about God. We had the wrong idea about the Torah and the mitzvahs. And now we have to change the perception and return to the perception as it really was initially, when it was exciting and pristine and pure. That the pureness of the soul resonated within ourselves, and we wished to be part of the universal wisdom, the universal goodness that pervades this world. And that's really who the Creator is. The Creator is the universal wisdom and the universal compassion and kindness. They say, well, how can God be kind? There's so much misery. The misery is, for the most part, imposed by ourselves. We create the misery, for the most part, in the world. We cause our own misery and destruction. All the forces that have been unleashed against mankind, in the way we see it, is the result of our own actions. When there is divisions, there is a creation of conflict within the earth's plates. When we start arguing with each other, so we rub each other the wrong way, and it's reflected in the two plates of the earth, the tectonic plates rubbing each other the wrong way, causing earthquakes. When our anger begins to stir within ourselves and we get ourselves all hepped up and angry, not because we really, really hate the other person, but because we want to hate the other person, because we dislike the other person's success and we're jealous of that. We think that it belongs to us. And so we become verbose, and we begin to talk about things, and we go over and over things, and that creates a cycle. And that cycle of anger and frustration causes the winds of the hurricanes and the cyclones and the tornadoes that are so destructive. We see the world as reflective of man's character, not the other way around. God created a world that's good. When we begin to return to God, when we begin to deal with God in a loving way, that God is a loving friend, and we begin to become a loving friend to each other, and we begin to reach out and talk to each other and have warm feelings for each other, that's when we will begin to see a change. Not the change of Obama, but the change of mutual respect and love and compassion, which will cause a change in the world. The world will become a better world. The world will become a happier world. The world will become a more productive world. A world where economies will not fail, where people will have enough for their needs and more. A world where people will be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor so that they can pursue wisdom and kindness and compassion. And so the theme is return, but not return to previous mistaken ideas. Return to God as your best friend. God's your best friend. And everyone else in the world are His agents, His angels that are sent to you from your best friend. Treat those angels with respect. Treat every person you meet with respect and with love and with kindness and dignity. And I want to tell you a story, but that'll be the next time. We've got to learn how to treat the other person with respect, irrespective of the way the other person looks. With that, I want to leave you. We have to return. You and I together will return with all of our hearts.